Doing these talks, lifting the veil. Now that's one of the meanings of the apocalypse, that the veil is being lifted, whereas previously things that couldn't be seen become very evident. So lifting the veil is just a part of our conversation that we'll be having. And I see many of you are signing on now. You have a moment or two to let your friends and associates join in on this as we have a conversation about perhaps the double pandemic that's happening at this particular moment, how he's faring with that, what his perception is, how he's moving through it, and any other thoughts that may arise. I appreciate the notes you've been sending on my Instagram, thanking me for these conversations. And some of you have gone to our Facebook, or my Facebook page, and Instagram, and just sharing your deep thoughts and feelings about some of the things that I've been saying recently at Agape on Sunday at agapelive.com, or Agape's Facebook page. And I appreciate that feedback, that this is the time to become very clear on what's happening in the world and what it all means, and our participation in it. If you've been tuning in, you know I've recently been talking about the fact that history is in the making right in front of our eyes. This is a very historical moment, and we have to choose to participate in the unfolding of history, or we have to, or we'll be a bystander. Here. Marlon, I think you just waved at me. Hey, we're going to invite you in. So anyway, Marlon just waved to us, so we're going to try to invite him in. He may have to request to come in, or we can invite him. Be patient. Technology.
He said he was trying to get on. There it is.
What's up, Rev?
Hey, you're in your car, man.
Yeah, man. Got places to go. My internet is all messed up in my crib, so I decided instead of being Teddy Riley, I'm going to go somewhere where I'm gonna have some service. So I said, let me go for a drive in my car.
we don't want to do the Teddy Riley vibe, man.
No, I want the Teddy Riley Wi-Fi service. So I'm gonna go for a little drive in my car, not in the hills, and talk to you. I'm gonna park somewhere where there's some shade.
Okay.
It's hot out here. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. How are you? You know, I was just breaking you down for the folks that you know, we're getting ready to talk with you, and we're at a time in which we're having a double pandemic. We have the COVID influenza, the COVID-19, and obviously people of color have been living under the pandemic of racism for a long period of time, and the name of the IG Lives is lifting the veil. It's a word that comes from the apocalypse, which means what was hidden can now be seen.
Right.
And so we wanted to check in with you and see how you're doing with both of these pandemics, what your thoughts are and what your perceptions are, and chop it up a bit. And first of all, let me just say that the last time we saw each other, you were just releasing that film when you played all those parts.
Sextuplets.
Six tuplets. I remember, yeah, that was at the premiere of that before it was
It
released
almost
on
killed me.
Netflix.
That movie almost killed me.
I
That's
can
how I like
imagine, man.
the
You
work,
did every
man.
part in the movie except for a couple.
I was trying to get every check, Rev.
Every single check for every identity.
Exactly. Unfortunately, next if I do a sequel, I'm gonna negotiate for each part. Period. Hello?
Right. Each
Can you hear
part
me?
gets a check.
Each part gets a different
Well, it's a
check
different
because
actor. Why not?
the how about this? The harder the part, the more the money. When I play Russell and Dawn, oh, you gotta pay me. But
Right.
it was a great movie and a great experience, and I just feel like, you know, I always say this, like my dad is Jehovah's Witness, right? And I always
Right.
speak. I'm not Jehovah's Witness. I'm not a religious guy, but I am a man
Right.
of God. I am God's son, and I always feel like everything is biblical and that everything always relates back to God. And to get through the things that I've been through in my life, whether it be that project or a different project or just things that you go through in your life, it's a purpose. And that purpose is the practice of getting through those things so that you can encounter other things that may be more challenging. And if you trust God, you're always going to know that a better you is going to come out of whatever you've been through. And that's what I mean by, like, for me, I always go trust God because I know a better me is going to come out of all that's happening. Like all this pandemic, everything that's happening with Black Lives Matter. I've been screaming Black Lives Matter for the last 10 years. You know, we've been protesting the last 10 years looking for some kind of reform, and it hasn't happened. But maybe it didn't happen then. But if we didn't start then we couldn't have the change that we're having now. You got to plant a seed, watch them grow. And now we see the fruition of trees, and, you know, it's looking good. And as far as this pandemic, it's biblical, man. I mean, this is a plague. And when you go through these things, I feel like every individual, for me, I sat back as an individual. I was like, I don't know about everybody else, but I found my purpose in this whole pandemic. I know why it happened for me personally.
Right.
And that's because through this, I needed the rest. I needed to deal with the things that was happening in my life. I needed life to slow down because there was so much happening in my life. So many people died, so many people getting sick, people having strokes, aneurysms, and God. Have fun and do the things that you were not able to do because you've been so busy being purposed, that find a new purpose. And I swear to you, this has been probably for me personally, one of the greatest things that ever happened. I wish I was making money. I wish everybody was. But I also found that money isn't wealth. Oh, and trust God.
Yeah, well, you definitely you speaking my language, man, because this is what I've been telling people, that this is a global reset in which
Yes.
we get to stop and do exactly what you said. We get to examine ourselves. We get to take stock of ourselves. We get
Yes.
to see what we want to carry forward. We want to see what we want to leave behind. But when we're running around in haste and doing so many things, not really action, but more of a busyness, we lose
Right.
our self-reflection. We don't
Yeah.
know who we are. We're just reacting to things out there. So I've invited
And we're
people
also
to, during this
distracting.
time, to be still, to
And we're
really be
also
still.
we're also distracting, and we're
Right,
deflecting because
right.
we're so busy being busy that you don't have time to sit with things and deal with things. And you know what? It's okay to sit in a pocket and deal with yourself and don't look at the world with a magnifying glass, but look at the world in the mirror and look at yourself, your world, your universe, and go, how can I correct the things that I've let kind of I haven't paid attention to? And that's to self. And I really feel like I'm happy about all this. And I'm on a cleanse right now. I'm doing a 21-day detox cleanse from Golden Calvin Medical Center. And it's 21 days, no dairy, no wheat, no sugar, no gluten, no alcohol, no red meat, no just nothing that considered bad for you. And
Right.
I'm coming out of this pandemic, this corona, this quarantine with a new purpose, a new me. I'm leaving all that stuff behind and I'm getting refocused. And I'm looking forward to carrying the great things that I've learned about myself from the pandemic and from that quarantine. You know, life is food. And what happens is you take in the nutrients and you poop out the rest. So
Right.
everything that was bad, I'm pooping out.
Right.
I'm taking all the nutrients with me because I need it for what I'm about to do in my life.
Right. I was going to ask you about your nutrition because I was speaking to a friend of ours, Troy Byer, today.
Yes.
She said you were really high on taking care of your body temple with the proper vitamins, proper nutrition, and proper exercise. So she said, she just mentioned that to me. I said, yeah, the last time I was with him, I could tell he was fit. He was vibing.
And I was like, you know what? That's not me. And my physical really represents where I'm at spiritually and emotionally. And that's why I take my physical so important. And that's why I take my health to heart, because that is a representation of me doing the work. And so I got back in the gym hard. I got on my cleanse. I probably dropped 10, 15 pounds already. I'm going to come out this with my six pack looking 20 years younger than I already look, because that's who I am as a person. That's who I am as an artist. I'm going to get you the cleanse, by the way. I'm going to send it to you. I want you to do it. It's complete clarity.
You don't have to convince me. I've fasted for years. You know, obviously, you know,
This is different.
I cleanse beautifully, but I want to see what your 21-day cleanse looks like. You don't have to twist my arm.
I got you. I'll send it to you. It's expensive, but I'm going to send it to you. It's my gift for sitting down and having a conversation with me.
Beautiful, because I'm doing the same thing. Keeping my body fit, exercising every day, obviously meditating every day, doing my yoga, I have a friend that has a private gym. I hit there 5 days a week.
Oh, go on, Ref.
So, you know, everything you're saying is the life that I live and try to elevate people into. And I love what you're saying, that during this time, you're focusing on your introspection. You're focusing on your body temple, your mental body, your emotional body. And like you, though I'm a minister, reverend, founder of Agape, I'm not religious either. I'm spiritual. I have a deep connection with the presence of God that's beyond religion. That's why we call it trans-denominational. It goes beyond denomination, beyond religions. It goes right to the source. So you're speaking my language. Let me ask you this, though, something that I really appreciated that you did. I was watching your stand-up routine a number of months ago, and you actually were doing a whole routine about how you had to get your kids ready to go outside in case they were stopped by the police. And
Absolutely.
You did it was comedy, but it was real.
Yeah.
You know, you said something like, "Yeah, I felt like I was training a runaway slave." You know?
Like an old slave that didn't know he had his freedom.
Right. Break that down a little bit. People need to see that stand up, because one of the things that comedians get to do is they get to take real issues. And sometimes people don't want to be preached at or beat over the head about it, but you get to sneak it in that this is the way we have to live our life.
Because it was a real conversation that I had to have with my children. And it's a shame that I have to have these conversations with my children, because I think it's important. See, there's two sides of what's going on. And I think as citizens, maybe we can be a little more respectful here. And, you know, when it comes to, you know, it needs more legislation. You know, this is a very serious issue. We need legislation. I need to know, what am I supposed to do so I don't get choked out? I need to know, what are my rights? Like, we need to know what those rights are. They need to get rid of the chokehold. They find new ways to choke people. Soon it's going to be that Darth Vader thing where they just do this from afar and choke you out. So we have to get those things in place, because I had to equip my children and have these talks with them about how to respond when they get pulled over. You know, it's not to yell and bark at them. It's, you know, yes sir, no sir. And I said, I tell them, be all humble and meek. I felt like an old slave that didn't know he had his freedom. Don't you look him in the eyes. You say yes sir, no sir. You need anything, sir? You want to shine your shoes, sir? But And we shouldn't be like that. And we shouldn't feel that way. And here's the thing. I think the problem lays beyond even the police and the uniforms. The real uniforms that we need to talk to is those suits in Washington, and get some laws and get some legislation put together, because the police represent and enforce the laws that the lawmakers make. So we need to go, forget the blue suits, we need to go sit down with the suits in Washington, and we need to get them to get some fair legislation put together so that we are protected. You know, understand, when they did the Declaration of Independence, the Jackson they had at a table wasn't a black man. We have no representation at that table. So we need to rewrite some of those laws and those constitutions that are inclusive of us.
We were labeled 3/5 of a man at that time in the Constitution. We had to have an amendment to actually be a full person according to our own Constitution.
Wow.
But I appreciate what you're saying. Because
and it's messed up because 2/5 of that was probably, all right, I can't say it because I'm on the phone with you, but go ahead.
This is an adult conversation.
Yeah, I got it. I went there and I was like, I'm on the phone with her. Okay.
I know what you were going to say. Never mind. For those of you who are telepathic, you got that. but you're dealing with it on two levels. Like one, there's racism. Racism is how you feel about me, and justice is how you treat me.
Right.
And so racism is, you know, that lie that black people are inferior or brown people are inferior to white people, or that we're less than. And then justice is how we've been treated. Because as I said at Agape, justice is supposed to be blind, but justice peaks. Yes. Whenever a brown person or a black person or a poor person is sitting in the defendant's seat, justice peaks and says, oh, you're going to get a different kind of justice than the guy that just walked in that has a lot of money, that's white. Two different kind of justice, maybe for the same crime. Right. So
it's the same thing when they pull us over. It's that same eye that we get looked at. It's the same thing. And that's why, you know, I think it's important that we really are become equal in those law books, and then, you know, in society. I think we need better to raise our communities, and we need to invest in those. They've taken out all the after school programs. They're trying to raise criminals. And I went back to my old neighborhood, and even me as a celebrity, I think we need to do better. You know, forget the chain that you're buying. Why are you buying that expensive chain? Forget that expensive, you got 10 cars. How many asses do you got? Instead of taking that money and buying that, I took a bunch of money and I went back to my projects and I rebuilt their gym. Because those kids need a place to stay. They need a place to keep them off the streets. That gym kept me out of trouble. They was about to knock it down. Right. I went back, I rebuilt that gym. I could have had a dope car. I could have been in a Rolls Royce instead of a Tesla. But I said, let me save some lives, because that's reinvesting, and I'm not making no money off that. I'm not making nothing. But you know what? God takes care of me. And as long as I'm a soldier for him, I'm going to be all right.
Right. Well, I'm glad you're in the Tesla, because that's also helping our environment as well. So
yeah, man. See, I'm a righteous man. I'm a righteous man.
But you know, you're speaking. We're covering a lot of issues here, but I can remember when my mother had the talk with me. You know, and it's a shame that we're still having the talk. We just had my daughter and my son just had the talk with my grandkids, and my youngest grandson was shocked to find out that my son had been arrested riding his bicycle in my neighborhood, you know, and he wasn't even doing anything. They said he fit the profile of somebody that was doing a burglary.
Don't we all?
I'm on a bicycle. I'm on a 10-speed bicycle. I can't carry a TV. I can't carry. What do you mean? What am I burglarizing? You know.
Come on. There's the brother that got shot in Georgia. He was just jogging. You can't even jog anymore. But that's why we have to get this remedied once and for all. We've been screaming about what we gonna do and what we want to do, but everybody needs to be active, and it's not about today. You know, when they did the civil rights movement back in the day, they were relentless. They didn't stop until they saw change. We get happy for 5 days and then we think we did something. No.
Right. No,
it's keep on going until we see change.
Yeah. As I said, it's not a sprint. It's not a marathon. It's a way of life. It's how we live our life. How we, you know, not only do black lives matter, black money matters. You know, how we spend our money. I just read an article that they shut down that crab house in DC or Baltimore, one of the places, when they found out that the owner had made some kind of racist comment on Facebook. They shut it down in one day. It 5 outlets shut down. You know, that's economics. You know, so we have to deal with not only immediate justice, but we have to deal with reform. And how you deal with reform is, as you're saying, people have to vote. They have to have right legislation by the people who put in office. And then we also have to have some kind of strategy around our money. There has to be some kind of strategy as where we're spending our money, how we're spending it.
But we need to be educated.
Or do we have to spend it all the time?
We need financial literacy.
Absolutely.
We need programs that help us with financial literacy. These young brothers get money. You know, you lose $1 million before you learn you gotta keep that. That it ain't gonna keep coming. You know, a lot of brothers, ask them, I lost my first money. A lot of brothers will tell you, I lost my first money. Thank God I could do it again, because we don't have financial literacy, and we're not educated properly. We don't go to these private schools. We don't get it's not like you're starting a race on at the same starting line. No, we got a head start. We're 400 years back. And what we have to do is we have to create these programs that really help us, and it takes black people to do this as well. I'm really proud of a lot of white people and their maturity, because the beauty of this movement versus back in the day, it wasn't us against them. The us against them has shifted. And I look back, I'm doing the Black Lives Matter marches, and I'm looking next to me and I'm seeing white people scream out the same things that I'm yelling at.
Absolutely.
And now it makes our voice louder. And now that megaphone is a speaker. And now we need to use this. It is totally different. And we need to use this to make change. It has to have change now.
Absolutely. It's not like it used to be. Now, that's why I call this time of apocalypse, lifting the veil. Things that were hidden can now be seen. So now our white brothers and sisters are actually hearing, seeing, because we have video cameras, hearing and seeing and actually saying, wow, you guys have been going through this whole time. This is how you've been living your life. And they're coming to an understanding that not just to be allies, we're to be together in building a kind and just global society. We're to be together in building a beloved community. It's not just for black people, it's for all of us.
Right. It's the human rights. And, you know, they oftentimes forget, because of your color of your skin, that not supposed to have human rights. And this is everything that we're doing. This is for humanity. It's not about black and white. And it's not even about, I have friends that are cops. Not every cop is a bad cop. I don't want people to become racist against people in blue uniforms, because, when they take off those uniforms, they got to go home to their families. I got friends, dear friends for 20 years. One of my friends is the chief of police in New York, a great guy. He's a black man, a brother. And, I actually put him up on my Instagram. He quelled a situation that was getting ridiculous. And, he understands, because he comes from the streets, so he knows how to deal with those people, with angry people. So he diffused situations. But I know Jeff, but if you didn't know Jeff, you would hate Jeff just because he's in uniform. And that makes you prejudiced. So let's not be that either. And understand that the police are part of the problem, but they're not the complete enemy. The police represent the government. So we need to attack the government, the people in suits, the lawmakers, and then they need to tell the police new directives.
Right. No, I'm in absolute agreement with you. I have dear friends that go to agape that are officers. I have some during the time when we were meeting, they were there for safety and protection for us.
Absolutely.
They're very spiritual people. So you have a combination of those that were hired, who were ignorant and sick and racist. And then you have those that are hired that do things that don't get reprimanded, that are able to stay on the force for long periods of time, even though they have a lot of infractions on their record. So as you're talking about this, we're talking about
the police need to be policed too. Right.
Yeah,
and the police need to be policed too.
Yeah, this is policy change.
They have a hard job, knowing who's your life is on the line. Nobody has, it's all about having empathy. We all have to have empathy for each other's situation, even their situation. That is a tough job. And every day you're putting your life on the line. I don't know if you do this. I know you was reaching for gun. I know I'm in a hostile situation. You know, a lot of cops get killed too. So I get it's a hard job, but I think the best people needed better training in order to do their job correctly. And that if you take a life unjustly, you gotta pay the piper.
You gotta pay for
You
that.
don't get a
Just
free
like,
pass.
just like
It's
you
murder.
would if you took a life. Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, so there has to be hiring. You got to hire the right people that are not psychologically damaged. You have to train them so that they're sensitive to the community that they're going to police, sensitive. And then you have to definitely have the policies where we eliminate the chokehold, we eliminate certain raising. You know, they did a study and they showed that when a female police officer arrives on the scene, they begin to de-escalate the energy. And when a man arrives on the scene, energy goes up. That alpha thing comes out, and they want to dominate the person, which is a citizen. You know, we're talking citizens. And so we have to discover what is it that female has.
Right.
What is that dynamic of empathy that you mentioned, or that can de-escalate, so that everything doesn't just get ratcheted up all the time. And then you combine that with the fact that many black people are afraid of police. So you combine that fear with the...
But sometimes, let's not forget, sometimes they save our lives. They are heroes.
Absolutely.
They solve crimes. You know, it's like, you know, it's finding that balance.
It is finding that balance. I'll tell you a story.
Checking ourselves and not being, I don't want us to become racist as well in terms of against blues. You know, there's there's bad white people, there's bad blue people, there's bad black people. And excuse me, a butthole is a butthole, no matter what you need. So let
me tell you something. Let me tell you a story of the day that I was so happy to see the police. I was on Wilshire. I was on La Brea and Wilshire, and there was a young black man walking down the street, minding his own business, had his books in his hands, and then this gang started following him and asking him what set he was in. And you could tell this brother had nothing to do with gangs. He's sitting there with his books, you know, he's a sweet nerd guy. And he said, I'm not involved. And they said, they knocked his books out of his hand. And it was about 3 or 4 of them. What set you in? What set you in? And he wasn't in a set. And it was about to get very violent. And I was at a red light. And I said, oh my God, okay. If today's the day I die, today's the day I died. I got in my car and I started to run to help him before I could get there. Plainclothes police officers showed up just from, I don't know where they came from. They just showed up and handled the situation. There was a guy sitting on the street selling pencils like a homeless guy. He was a police officer. He rose up, took his badge out, and man, I was so happy to see those police.
You know where that came from,
I was about to get my butt beat or killed, you know?
You know where that came from? God loves you. And all you have to do is go, oh, God, help me. And he just sent reinforcements out of nowhere. Homeless guy turned into a cop. God loves you.
I'm telling you, I didn't see him before that moment, and all of a sudden they were there. I know that was the presence of God, just bringing what I needed, because there was no way. But bring it back to that.
As an individual, check yourself. Are you being the best human that you can be, even in your colors? Really check yourself. Whether you blue, whether you red, are you being a good human being? Like, we can't point fingers at others. Let's hold mirrors up to ourselves and go, how do we as individuals be better? And then let's put that collective effort together to go make the world better. And that's what needs to be done. Yep.
And I think going back to the beginning of this conversation, that's what this quarantine situation can do. Make us become introspective, look at ourselves, see where we need to change. Don't lie to ourselves. We look in the mirror, see what needs to be changed. What lie are you telling about yourself? Is it lack of self-esteem, lack of self-worth? What lie are you saying about someone else? And own your stuff and then radically change it. You know, this is what meditation is all about. It's what prayer is all about. What study is all about. What fellowship is all about. You know, changing your mindset so that your mindset and your heart set matches your desire, as you're saying, to be a better version of yourself. So when we come out of this, we're all better people.
Yep. Happy's a choice. And you can't, everybody, oftentimes, you know, we get in these situations which we're trying to fix people. We're trying to save people and rescue people from themselves. You can't do that.
No.
That individual has to rescue themselves, and you have to rescue you. And
Right.
once you can't put your issues and problems on other people. That is not fair. You need to deal with you and then bring your best person to the best person.
Right.
And that's maturity.
Right.
I don't give people my nonsense. I don't care what I go through in my life. I don't give people my issues. I deal with my issues, and I keep a smile, and I'm in charge of my universe in terms of who's around me. If I'm negative and I'm on set, I've made the whole set feel bad. I'm responsible for a lot of people's feelings. So if I feel a certain way, I'm conscious about who's around me. I'm not going to give that to my kids. I'm not going to give that to their mom. I'm not going to give that to my brothers or my sisters or my mom. No, if I'm dealing with something, I'm going to deal with it, but I'm always going to give them my best me. It's not fair to take my vibe and make it a cloud for everybody.
Right.
Everyone cloud over my head when I need it.
Absolutely. Everyone has to take responsibility for themselves, and they have to participate in their own unfolding, because no one can do it for them. We can give you the principles, the practices, but you got to do it. You
Right.
have to do it. You know, you have to lift those weights if you're going to develop that body temple.
Nobody wants to do the work.
That nutrition you're going to develop. You're going to have to study that book. You're going to have to meditate. You're going to have
Yes.
to pray. Somebody
Yes.
can't do that for you. Total responsibility. Absolutely.
It's funny
Listen,
because people talk about the work, but nobody want to do it. And people talk about, like, how do you get successful? You know, it's the mind state of trying to be better and doing the work and being determined to get the work done and never turning back and never accepting failure. Failure is when I quit trying. Those are the key elements to success. And if I could do that as a person, then I could do that in my business. I could do that in relationships. I can do that in anything in my life. I could move mountains as an individual because
Right.
I've made the choices to be successful internally.
Absolutely. And you come from a great dynasty. We love you. We love your family. You bring a
Thank
lot
you,
of joy, a lot of inspiration. You guys have been a shining example of a family and successful family. And we were so happy to see you guys on TV back in the day together too.
Oh, we're gonna do it again.
With a lot of black people on TV, you know.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
You guys broke through some barriers.
Well, that was Keenan. Keenan and Damon deserve a lot of credit, and my sister Kim.
Yeah. Right.
They're trailblazers, and not just for me and my brother Sean, but I think they're trailblazers for all of us that dream to be somebody for a whole generation. And I'm just happy I grew up in the house with my legends. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. You got good people around you. And
yeah.
So listen, I don't want to keep you forever, but we can talk.
I'm gonna come down to the church. When you open back up.
As soon as they tell us we can. Right now you can only have a maximum of 100 people, so it would be foolish for us to open it up and try to figure out what 100 is going to get in there, because we always have a couple of thousand every Sunday.
Right.
So we're going to
make sure you tell Pause for Peace to reach out and tell me when, or you hit me up, text me when y'all open up, and
as soon as we open up,
definitely be down.
As soon as we open up, I'll let you know, and you'll come on down and we'll hang out. And
I'll come get some of that food.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take you to catch. I'm gonna take you to eat, bro.
We've been talking about that.
We're gonna do it.
And also, send me your 21-day cleanse.
I will. I got you.
We'll talk after this.
Tell Leia, send me the address, and I got you.
Okay, we'll talk after this.
All right, thanks for the talk. I love you, brother.
Hey,
Keep
man,
safe.
Stay strong.
Thanks
For your time.
Anytime.
Yeah. Okay, everyone. Peace and blessings. And that was Marlon Wayans. And good conversation. Shared a lot of insight around the time we're living in, nutrition, taking responsibility for our own life. Don't become prejudiced against police just simply because they're police officers. Understand they're coming out of a system. The system needs to be changed. So that deals with legislation. That deals with who you're voting for. Are you registered? Have you registered? Did you vote in the last election? Begin to study the issues. Begin to study the people, so that you know who to put in office. We're talking not just the president of the United States, even though that's very important, but your local councilman. You know, you realize it was the council in Minneapolis that defunded the police department there. Now, we're not talking, when we talk defunding the police department, we're not talking about getting rid of police. We're talking about, in some cases, taking some of that money that's allocated to put it into community development, other programs that will uplift the community. But I'm just saying, council people, senators, congress people, assemblymen, supervisors, all of these individuals, we put the right people in place and then put fire to their feet, then that can be changed on a political level. Education changes things on a mindset level, so that, because no baby is born a racist. You don't have a racist baby. That's taught, you know? And so there needs to be education so that that systemic issue begins to fade out. And then there's justice. Justice is how we're treated. So we have to deal with all of these issues. This is why it's not a marathon. What we're dealing with is a way of life in which all of us begin to build a kind and just global society. Because what's coming up now, even though we're dealing with the fact that Black people have been oppressed and marginalized and stereotyped and has not been getting the same amount of justice that other people had, this is the build this society, all hands on deck. This is why I was so heartened to see our white brothers and sisters, our Hispanic brothers and sisters, our Asian brothers and sisters, and people all over the world standing up and say, no more, no more. We appreciate that George Floyd's life is being made sacred. That is, it's a sacrifice to call attention to this, but we can't stop it there. There's work to be done. And as we were saying, that work is within ourselves as well. Really looking at ourselves in the mirror and seeing what kind of human beings we are and how we can be better, you see. You feel like a victim at times. You may have been victimized, but you don't have to hold the label of victim if you do your inner work. I think I'm going to stop now. If you haven't done so already, go to michaelbbeckwith.tv and subscribe to my new app. Then you go to the App Store, Beckwith Inspires, MBB, and get the app. You can sign up for free. I'm going to have moments of inspiration. I'm going to have moments of going behind the scene with things that I'm doing. There'll be tears to it, but you can sign up for free. And for such a time as this, you'll be able to have it right there on your telephone, in your hand, and have the latest moment of inspiration or teaching that I am providing, okay? If you forgot all of that, go to michaelbbeckwith.com and you'll get the information there. Now, for those of you who are just tuning in, you don't know about agape that Marlon was talking about, go to agapelive.com, go to the website. I have 3 services every single Sunday, 6:45 a.m. Pacific time. I lead a meditation service. I teach meditation. And then at 8:30 and 11, there's another meditation service that precedes the inspirational message service. So we'll see you on Sunday. And just a quick note, every day at 8 a.m. and every day at 12 p.m., we have a prayer time and a meditation time. Every Friday at 5:30, we have a community gathering. All of this is on Agape's Facebook page. Thank you for tuning in. Go within on a regular basis and desire to be the next great version of yourself. If you want more of this conversation in just about 40 minutes, go to Agape Now on the Instagram. Reverend Julie Moret is going to be bringing some inspiration in a very powerful way. She's one of our ministers here at Agape. Until next time, stay strong. This is not a sprint. It's not a marathon. It's a way of life. Peace and blessings.